The year is currently 2024, and I am working on rejoining the military. I am prior enlisted, finished up my degree just this past December of 2023, and now that it's 2024, I am deciding that I would like to rejoin the military as an officer. And this is just going to be the start teen video to a little series that I decided to do because I'm going through and doing a lot of research myself as I'm preparing myself and getting ready, putting together an officer package and trying to move forward. And so I realize that there's a fair amount of information out there on YouTube and other places already. However, a lot of it is kind of jumbled up from different people that you're kind of getting from I've only found a couple of people, honestly, that have a lot of sort of like specific series type of videos that really kind of lay it all out there for you. And a lot of them are not all that recent either. And by and large, the big sort of cohort of videos I found are largely people that were YouTubers and had military experience and so decided to do something, or they were people in the military that really wanted to be full-time YouTubers, and that was sort of what they started talking about to eventually transition out, which is not sort of my goal or perspective here. So I wanted to kind of just decide to make some videos and put this out there to help me help me navigate my own way through the process, but is also hopefully to be a little bit of a resource too. And so I just want to kind of share a little bit about what I'm going through as I work to join the military in 2024, different branches that I'm considering, what their process is like, and reflect on my own experience as well, because I am prior enlisted. I served in the Navy for 5 years, and I have been out the past 4 years, and so I have a little bit of a unique case in that regard, a bit. And so it's a perspective that I have that I'm bringing to the table and what I'm going through. Also, another reason for me doing this is because a lot of the videos that I have gotten from people out there on the internet are not active duty folks. They are National Guards or reserves doing videos, which is a different perspective that they have and that they are bringing to the table as well. And their experience, it differs drastically, honestly, from someone on the active duty side and component. And so, yeah, that's why I decided to make these videos. And this is the start of the journey and what we're going. So I'm just going to kind of roll into it. I don't want to make a whole another separate video to kind of start the process. So back a couple months ago, in like March, April or so, I decided that I wanted to rejoin the military. So like I said, I'm prior enlisted, and I have been worked a year or so while I was in college before I joined. Decided that I wasn't quite sure I wanted to finish up my degree. Took a year hiatus off after my sophomore year, so what would have been my junior year of college. Ended up deciding not to continue, and was working, and then decided to join the military to have them pay for the rest of my degree. Funny enough, it was something that I said that I would never do. I would never ever join the military. That was the one thing in life I said I would never do. It was my parents' thing. Both of them are prior Navy as well. Mom got out when she had me. Dad retired out of the Navy as a chief or an E7, and so it was a great life. I honestly enjoyed my experience as a military brat, if you will, moving around. It was great. You get a whole new perspective and lease on life being a military kid, and I wouldn't trade that for the world. However, it was my parents' thing, and it just wasn't really something that I could see myself doing. Also just kind of given, my spirit and attitude. Like, I am very opinionated, very vocal. I like my own way of doing things, and so I wasn't sure that the structure and rigidity of the military was really something that like I would mold into very well. And so I was like, no way, Jose. So it's funny how God has plans of his own that will carry out through our lives. And I did, in 2016, I made the decision that I was going to join. 2015, I guess, joined in 2016, and went off to Navy boot camp in the glorious city of Chicago to start a Navy career, which went very well. I was, since I had college, I was able to come into the Navy as an E3 and advanced quite quickly. The shortest advancement time between grades for enlisted soldiers is E3 to E4. It's only 6 months. So basically, right after you finish your 2 months of boot camp, and then you go on to your A school for your job training for whatever rate that you get selected as. For anyone who's not in the Navy or Coast Guard, you call them MOSs, we call them rates. So whatever our job specialty was, for me that was logistics. That school was another 8 weeks, so another 2 months. So 4 months into my career already, get to my first duty station a little couple weeks after that. So you're really kind of chucking a long time quite quickly. You get to your first duty station and you immediately take a test to start your advance, to see if you can advance to E4, because bada bang, you're at your 6 month mark already. I got that the first time up, and then was promoted to E5 just a few years later. I would have gotten that one the first time up too, but some eval problems. So that was a lesson learned there for making sure that you are really advocating for yourself and knowing what is on your eval to make sure that you're getting the marks that you want and think you deserve. You got to advocate and fight for yourself a little bit. But that's okay. A few test cycles later, ended up getting it. So I promoted very quickly, had a good life, got into positions of leadership, and had, for all practical purposes, a very successful career. Got a nice little ribbon stack, pretty thick, in my 5 years on active duty service. Served overseas the whole time. First half of my contract was in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. The last half of my contract was on a submarine tender based out of Guam. So I was on islands the whole time, right? Living the tropical life, sunshine, beaches, swimming in the ocean. It was a real hard life. So that one, it went really well. I enjoyed my time. Definitely, there's pros and cons like every job, so I had plenty of gripes and dislikes. It's funny how I feel like I complained a fair amount when I was in, and then after getting out in the past few years, I feel like I talk about it very positively. So hindsight, perhaps, or just choosing to stay an optimist and only focus on the positive things. But so now I finished my degree, and that was always something that I did have on the table. I knew that if I was going to continue, if I deviated from my plan of just doing my initial active duty contract and then getting out to move on, pursue other things. But as I was going through, it was like, if I was ever to stay and I make this a career, like I would want to do that as an officer. And a lot of my peers and those above me agreed that they thought that I would be a good fit, was super encouraging. And so that kind of started the thought process of going down the line. So here I am now, 2024, deciding what I wanted to do. As much as I enjoyed my career and my time in the Navy, it is not the branch of service that I am choosing to commission into. I don't want to deploy on ships. I was lucky in my 5 years on active duty in that I didn't ever deploy. My ship was in port pretty much the whole time, and because I was getting out in the beginning of 2021, so I had 2020 in there. So with COVID, we served a special purpose of staying in port to service submarines, so they could pull into us and to a clean zone and environment to make sure that no one would get sick and contaminated, and those in the Navy would be able to continue their mission healthy without any sort of delays or problems, sicknesses, illnesses, what have you. So the longest I went out to sea was just like a couple of weeks to do some testing with the ship and make sure that things were functional and up and running. Otherwise, that was it. And we just went off the coast of Guam and kind of did circles around the ocean and stuff. It was nothing special, didn't go anywhere. And I liked it that way. You know, all the stories that I heard for like the worst parts of Navy life are people that talk about their deployments and out on the ship for eons and eons, or getting the deployment extended. You know, like all the horror stories that you hear about the Navy, and it typically involve that aspect. Like, that's not what I wanted. Also, the duty that we pull in the Navy with 24-hour shifts and for duty sections, going on your watches that you stand, which are going to be anywhere from, you know, like 4 to 6 hours. On the ship I served on, we had 5-hour watches. So, and we were lucky that we had that I had 8 duty sections on my ship for most of the time that I had. That is not the case on every ship. Some they might have less, and we collapsed to 4 duty sections at times as well. That I was there for that 2.5 years. So when you have duty coming up every 4 days, it's rough. When you have it every 8, not so bad. You can really kind of tolerate that pretty well. But still, that means you're stuck on a ship for 24 hours. You're pulling watches at some point during the day for 5 hours, and you're standing on your feet. Like, there's no sitting down on watch. Like, you're standing, you're moving around, perhaps, if you're a roving. Otherwise, most of my watches were on the quarterdeck. Like I said, I made E5 pretty quickly, and which happened right when I got to the ship. So, as an E5, you know, like we were standing, officer of the deck watch. You know, we were doing it all. Really, E5s did a lot on the ship. So we had that, and so doing that kind of watch wasn't really something I wanted in my life. Doing the Navy deployments wasn't something that I wanted, because you have ramp ups and cool downs in addition to the deployment time itself. So, you know, also leadership gripes that I did have while I was in. I don't really want to badmouth too much, but that would, unless that's something you all would like me to get into in some other future video, you can comment down below. But it's not my top branch choice. I was also lucky that in my career I interacted with a lot of different branches. My first duty station in Guantanamo, that's a joint environment, so I interacted with Marine Corps, Army, a bit, because they serve the prison side, Air Force, every Coast Guard. They're all there. We are all in Guantanamo Bay, which I'm sure comes as a shock to most people, because they think that it's just the prison. It's not. It was a Navy base before the prison was ever there. So I got a chance to interact with a whole lot of branches. Same on Guam. Air Force also has a base on Guam. Since I left, I believe the Marine Corps has since been restationed there. I think they've officially been kicked out of Japan. I could be wrong on that, so you can fact check that. Personally, I don't care enough to check, but they're there, they're not there, it doesn't matter. I was around different branches, so I got to kind of see different interactions and such. And so as much as all of us in the military like to joke about the Air Force, I decided that was probably the branch for me. I had a senior enlisted Air Force guy who was retired as one of my bosses in Guantanamo, and he was phenomenal. He taught me a lot, big influence on my life as a mentor, both for working and spiritually. Just a quality guy, and we got along really well, and have a relationship that is, I think, going to stand the test of time, which is really awesome. And just hearing him talk about it, you know, I mean, the guy just exudes like Air Force pride. You know, he is the poster child for it. Like, they should really put him on the posters. Have him speak and do recruiting events. Like, the Air Force would be fully beefed up all the time, no problem. They'd have more recruits than ever necessary. Like, he just exudes Air Force pride. You know, like, had the little license plate with the Air Force wings symbol like on his car type of thing. He's also from Georgia, University of the Georgia Bulldog fan, and he exudes that pride too. So yeah, if either of those two institutions need recruiting, like, call, just reach out to me. I'll put you in touch with him, and you will be well supplied there. You know, should he decide he wants to change careers. So after seeing him in action, dealing with different branches, I thought Air Force would be a good choice. And so a couple months ago, back in March, April, that is what I decided on. So I decided, okay, I'm ready to join. I'm ready to rejoin. I'm gonna go talk to someone to figure out what it takes. Went by the office. In typical fashion, Air Force, very laissez-faire, kind of easygoing. Went, talked to one office. It was kind of split. I wasn't sure. Knocked on the door. Told me I was in the wrong place, but she was an officer that I talked to, so I had a quick little conversation with her, kind of asked her a few questions, got some encouragement to move my way. She pointed me down at the end of the hall. Went and talked to the recruiters down at the end of the hall. So in there, I was not looking to commission for a specific or specialty career like chaplain, something in the medical field, not looking to be a pilot. I just wanted sort of a regular job. I was thinking maybe rejoining as logistics or something to that effect. The only recruiters that they had in the office at the time were specifically for the medical corps. So Air Force has definitely a whole different process for joining than some other branches. I can assure you of that. So they have their military recruiters who are senior enlisted, and they branch them off specifically to deal with job type. So the two recruiters that they had at the time were both for medical recruiting, and they did not currently have a line officer recruiter. So any of the sort of more traditional jobs, if you will, they didn't have one of those, so they were just the ones that were working with me to help and give me the information that I needed. And so they provided this long packet of information of what you'll have to fill out. So it's an application. You're going to be turning in a lot of standard documents to identify who you are, personal IDs, passports, social security cards, things of that nature. You're also going to need your transcripts from high school and college. You'll need your diplomas to submit so they can verify all that. You're going to fill out an application. You're going to go to MEPS, which stands for Military Entrancing Processing Station, and that is something that both officers and enlisted will do. So go through and go to MEPS, get physically qualified. You want to make sure that you are good to go there, get that taken care of, and then you can kind of move on through the process. And you'll have to put this whole package together. You're going to answer a couple of questions on why you want to be an officer, why do you think you'd be a good officer and a good fit for the Air Force. In the Air Force, as an officer, you also have to take a qualifying exam. So all enlisted folks have to take the ASVAB. All Air Force officers have to take the AFQT. And basically, they're a very similar test, just kind of sort of standard test like everyone that went through high school did, either taking an ACT or an SAT, similar type of thing. The big thing with the test for Air Force officers, the AFOQT, that makes it challenging is largely time. Each section of the test is timed. It's a long exam over the course of about 5 hours, and each section is timed, and it's rapid fast. You're gonna have sections where you have 38, 40 questions that are you're only given 25 to 35 minutes to answer these things. It is definitely really skewed. Like, you have to kind of roll through them. The longest section of the test is the end, which is just a personal assessment, kind of like personality type questions, personal assessment that you're ranking yourself on to kind of describe. But that is 240 questions. It's very, very long. And so you're going to be tested on pilot related things, instrument panels. There's a science question. There's a reading section, word section, and quantitative math section. And you need to really study up for this. It's kind of challenging, especially for me. I got a study guide and I was kind of looking through it. I also went ahead and got an Algebra for Dummies book to use as practice, to refresh my brain and practice, get fast at equations again and do things, I did just graduate college, but I haven't touched, but that's because I worked on it very slowly. Like I said, before I joined in 2016, I had already gotten 2 years of college done. So my last 2 years, I basically did over 8 or 9 years, just taking classes at a time while I was on active duty. Since I got out, and finishing that up is kind of just a long, slow process, but I finally got it done, but math-wise, like, I have not touched any of that since, like, since high school or my early college. I think I did have a math class. I had 1 or 2 math classes my freshman year. I don't remember if I even had one my sophomore year of college. So I haven't touched anything since like 2012, 2013, right? So you got to reflex those muscles to bring some of this information back to the forefront. Like, okay, how do you do this again? Like, how do I do long division quickly? Kind of needing to refresh the brain on these things to get it all packaged together. Okay, I'm already at like 20 minutes for this video, so I'm gonna, like I said, it's gonna be multiple parts. This is kind of the start of the journey and qualification, and stay tuned for more of the journey and information, and find out how I decided to, not actually continue down the path of joining the Air Force and join the Army instead.